Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books. Today we're talking about woke films, TV shows, comics. They will all be destroyed, especially at Warner Brothers Discovery, but even at other mainstream companies, eventually it will come to pass. There's been this concept in the last couple of years, and I know you've seen it, where there's been an abuse of power, where it's been, well, let's not give people what they want. Let's not give fans what they want. If fans object to our social takes on things, let's go ahead and force them to take it. And if they don't want to take it, we'll just make sure we call them toxic fans. We'll give them a hard time. We'll try to demonize them. Well, you know, that works until there are people like David Zaslav that come along and say, hey, I got to make some money. All joking aside, like, I got to make some money. So you show me how what you're doing is going to make money, or we ain't doing it. And that has been a huge help. Right away, we have seen results. There was the cancellation of Batgirl. $90 million invested in the project. Woke project. Yeah, but not good for the brand. Not clearly a winner. Not something that could be offered in movie theaters. Not something that could be promoted. So it got canceled. Just canceled. $90 million, you're going to cancel it? Like, oh yeah, we're going to cancel it. Because there's nothing more important than the brand and satisfying fans. But the thing of it is there are all of these moves, multiple moves, and I'm going to point out multiple articles for you to check this out. But there are multiple moves being made by David Zaslav and his team to recognize that fans come first, results come first, success comes first, and merit comes first. That's a lot of firsts. But somehow they're pulling off all four of them. So it was just announced yesterday that J.J. Abrams' woke Constantine is dead, along with Madam X at HBO Max. Let's get into the article from my friend Matt McGloin at Cosmic Book News. But before we do, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, click the bell for notifications, and give me a thumbs up when you like it, because it is a huge help, and I really do appreciate you doing that. It does help building up the channel. David Zaslav and Warner Brothers Discovery have brought back Keanu Reeves in the fan favorite role. So J.J. Abrams was supposed to be doing this, BIPOC, TV version of Constantine. And it was, I mean, look, it is what it is, but not at Zaslav's Warner Brothers, So Zaslav basically, snaps his fingers and all of a sudden, it's canceled. Now, J.J. Abrams will also be working with Keanu Reeves. Who's that? It's this guy. I think you know who he is. To do a sequel headlined for Constantine by, Keanu Reeves. And he's still, J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot is still working on the film. But, it's not going to be woke. It's not going to be something created for just the purposes of representation. It's going to be something that's created for the purposes of honoring the character, telling a good story, but bottom line, giving fans what they want. You go to a pizza place. You want pizza. That's what you're looking for. Not some different version of pizza. I mean, if you like pizza, let me know in the comments below, but you understand what I'm saying. That's the deal. David Zaslav and Warner Brothers Discovery have gone out and canceled 2 more projects by J.J. Abrams. Poor J.J. Don't worry about J.J. He's doing just fine. But they were with the woke Constantine reboot and Madam X Justice League Dark spinoff at HBO Max. Today, we saw the news that David Zaslav's choices to head Warner Brothers Films ushered in the deal to bring back Keanu Reeves as Constantine in another installment to the 2005 movie, reuniting Reeves with the original director, Francis Lawrence. And when you see things like original director, a lot of times that means it's going to be good. It's going to be what you expect. You're going to get your money's worth when you go see the film. You could be reluctant, but, you see what these people are about. Fan service. In Variety's report on the news, it said the J.J. Abrams Constantine HBO Max series is now dead, along with another Justice League Dark project, the Madam X series. Now, as covered later, and it does explain, J.J. Abrams is still free to shop those projects, Madam X and the BIPOC Constantine TV series, to other platforms and other outlets, media companies, if they want to carry it. Very doubtful that they'll exist. And why are they still doing that? I don't have inside information, but probably because the contracts allow that. As part of Abrams' big Warner Media deal, Abrams was to develop Justice League Dark and spin-off projects. However, recently saw it reported Abrams' deal is being reevaluated by Warner Brothers Discovery and David Zaslav. So there'll be some negotiating going on. They don't want to, they're not going to produce stuff that's going to lose money. It's going to have merit. It's going to have to be obvious that there's fan service, and it's going to be financially successful, most likely, and serve its function, or it's not going to exist. That's how these people operate. Warner Brothers Discovery is canceling lots of J.J. Abrams projects. Variety does offer that both shows are being shopped elsewhere, as we just said, and that Warner Brothers Television and Bad Robot remain extremely high on both projects and expect to find a new home for them both. They will not. But that can simply be spin. They will likely not. The Abrams Constantine is said to have had 4 scripts written, and that series is going to take place in contemporary London, with it previously said that Abrams' Constantine of choice would have been played by a BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, and People of Color actor in their late 20s. By the way, casting people in their 20s to do these kinds of roles, I'm all for that. It's one of my problems with the She-Hulk. I'm looking at it, I'm just saying, well, do you want to be in the role for 10 years? Because you want to look at 10 years to exploit and do a franchise. If you're going to do a franchise, look at 10 years. If not, you take someone in their mid-30s, particularly a woman, to be a She-Hulk, that doesn't make sense. They want to move her into the films. All right, well, you've got to have an actor associated with a project that starts young, that's got 10 good years in them. And it's more difficult for women than it is for men, but it is what it is. J.J. Abrams is also said to be developing a woke Superman movie. Do you think that's got a chance of happening? I don't think so. Along with Taishi Nishi Coates. But there's a question that maybe it's been canceled already. It's been canceled. David Zaslav wants Henry Cavill back as the Man of Steel, and I'm going to tell you right now, obviously he's going to get him. Because the priority is to have recognition. There's also a lot of talk about how Affleck's going to come back for Batman. Basically Affleck's kind of he's known for it. So he's going to get him. Of course he's going to get him. Because it's important. Because it locks into the whole value of everything you're trying to do with DC films and the DC franchise. Zaslav and Warner Brothers Discovery have canceled a number of J.J. Abrams projects of late, including the Bat Cape Crusader animated series at HBO Max, which they are now licensing out. Warner Brothers Discovery has also axed Abrams' expensive sci-fi series Demiande, The Shining spin-off Overlook, and My Glory Was I Had Such Friend on Apple TV. They're not going to finance just woke projects anymore at Warner Brothers Discovery. They're not. And, Abrams' relationship with Warner Brothers Discovery was, he's a big talent, Abrams. Fine. But they're not going to get Abrams. They don't need Abrams producing content for Warner Brothers Discovery that's not absolutely going to be financially successful, bring more people to the streaming service, mess around with their brands. They're not doing that. There's not even a chance in hell that they're doing that. And this is the Deadline article of Warner Brothers setting up the sequel for Constantine. What a fantastic thing to see. What a fantastic thing to see that Warner Brothers Discovery is so serious about not producing woke stuff anymore, that they're wiping that out. They're wiping out the Batgirl movie, one project after another. They're not going to continue. Now, they are also very willing to license things out. So this is also from Cosmic Book News. There's a good article on this in Hollywood Reporter also that's pretty thorough. This just came out today. David Zaslav's strategy shift, licensing out Warner's IP. Now, why would they be licensing out IP? Well, the idea is, leverage what you have. Turn what you have into money in every which way. So there's a certain number of series that they want to produce new for any of their outlets, whether it's HBO Max, whether it's any of the other channels, or it's something for a feature film. there are certain things they absolutely need to control, but there are certain things they don't need to control. Would you expect the DC animated series to be something that they would license out? I'm a little surprised by it, but looking at the economics, I think of it as too, like if you add the DC's Batman animated series, how many more HBO Max subscribers is that going to be worth? Versus if they license it to Apple for a fortune and then just make money licensing it to Apple. What's it worth to them? This is a great example how they license. Now, they had the rights to all streaming for Lord of the Rings, but they decided to license to Amazon for their Prime Video. So why would they do something like that? Is it short-sighted? No, it makes all the sense in the world. House of the Dragon is like completely their property, right? They're focused on House of the Dragon. So if they put out House of the Dragon and Lord of the Rings for them to compete with each other, does that make any sense? It doesn't. It's worth much more to Amazon Prime to have Lord of the Rings, even though they did a silly, what they did with it. It's another whole story. But it makes more sense to get people on Prime Video for Amazon than it would be for HBO Max to compete with its own content. If you could actually go to war with your competitor and you've got your strong content, but they also have to pay you for their own ammunition, hey, you're making money on every side. The other thing is investors love that kind of stuff because it's just like, all right, there's no risk. It's just free money. Amazon was launching its own $500 million Lord of the Rings TV series, and it was in the market for a way to hook potential viewers of its fantasy epic. So naturally, it called Warner Brothers Discovery, the owner of Amazon Prime Video's competitor, HBO Max. The Lord of the Rings and Hobbit films are controlled by Warner Brothers, and it had been locked up exclusively for streaming on HBO Max by the company's previous owner. The trilogy, which generated nearly $3 billion in box office revenue and comprised some of the best-known IP in the HBO Max film library, was now up for grabs, at least on a non-exclusive basis. Whereas before, Warner Media zealously guarded its films for HBO Max, now Warner Brothers Discovery is open about the fact that they are in business, according to David Zaslav. This is so important because you could sit on the intellectual property and not generate cash from it and just develop some of it for your own. There's a friend of mine that owns an IP library of something like 1,000 characters, and he puts out like one film every couple of years, comics to film stuff. So that's great, but are you ever going to develop all of that other stuff? No, there's too much stuff to develop. It's great to partner with people. It's great to collaborate, especially if you can get checks in the door. This is the strategy that was promised by David Zaslav when he did this deal. This is exactly the strategy. In April of 2022, David Zaslav, this is from Broadcast, and Broadcast is an industry for TV and streaming and things like that, website. David Zaslav says, Warner Brothers Discovery will have discipline and focus. What investor wouldn't like that? Discipline and focus. David Zaslav has stated Warner Brothers Discovery will exercise discipline and focus on its investments in light of the recent volatility in the streaming market as Discovery Direct to consumer subscribers grew fractionally to 24 million. So what's the point? He's focused on making money. He's not making social justice statements. That's not going to happen. They're concerned with how do we make money? How do we develop proprietary things? But they just don't need to hold all the intellectual property in the world is great. But if you're not exploiting it, if you're not making money from it, what the hell's the point? Quote, we have a ton of content that has been sitting idly for just purely principal reasons. Warner Brothers Discovery CFO Gunnar Wiedenfels, who is a great manager for Zaslav, said at a Bank of America conference on September 8th, Lord of the Rings is a great example. It's a non-exclusive window, and we look at it as what we're giving up versus what additional revenue we're generating, like black and white. The CFO added, noting that there are positive knock-on effects on our own platforms as well. Warner Bros. Discovery received an undisclosed sum in licensing revenue, effectively monetizing a film that had been, in Weidenfeld's words, sitting idly, while Amazon was able to engage potential TV series viewers ahead of its launch with the iconic films. But The Lord of the Rings isn't the only franchise Warner Bros. Discovery is willing to let others mine. So this is the Batman animated series in development from J.J. Abrams is also being shopped around. Bruce Timm, Abrams, and Matt Reeves took the show on the road for a series of big pitches to major streamers this week and last. The series Batman Caped Crusader was originally planned for HBO Max before the Warner Bros. Discovery merger. At present time, Netflix, Amazon, and Hulu are the big contenders. So they're gonna compete and write big checks. And they're also going to promote Batman. And this is the thing about making these kinds of deals. It was interesting. Years ago, there was a deal that Fox did with Ronald Perlman, used to own Marvel Comics, Ronald Perlman, to get a hold of Ronald Perlman's TV stations that he had just acquired. Well, Fox spent a fortune doing it, and Perlman made a ton of money, and the transaction went like that. And it was worth it to Fox to do because it was before that they had their own TV network. And then they, at that point, had enough television channels that were actually able to launch their own network. So there are deals that companies will make, like outrageous deals, where you could never make enough money on your own doing it because they're trying to accomplish something. They're trying to get people to look at their streamer. Apple is also negotiating to get a hold of this Batman series, which would be great for Apple because nobody knows that Apple's a streamer at this point. Like, yeah, they have a streaming service, but it's like, they're not known for it. It's very limited, but they have potentially tremendous distribution. So if they have something that catches people's eye, like a J.J. Abrams Batman series, it's worth much more to Apple than it's worth to HBO Max. And it still promotes the intellectual property that Warner Bros. Discovery owns, which will only help push DC that much more. While it's not going to be part of any larger live-action DC universe, Batman is still some of DC's most popular intellectual property. Once you decide your streaming ambitions are not your North Star, why not license out as much as possible? Lightshed analyst Rich Greenfield wrote in an August 10 research note. Catalog only has value to streaming services if you can drive meaningful daily time spent where subscribers are getting lost in your service, meaning, hours spent basically on your service in streaming. The decision is a major shift for the company, which is from under Jason Kilar and AT&T, where they withheld as much content as possible for HBO Max to rapidly grow its subscriber base. Of course, Warner Brothers is no stranger to licensing content, with its TV division having long been one of the most aggressive about selling shows to other networks and platforms. But the message from the C-suite, this means decision makers, CEO, CFO, that's the top guys, seems to be clear. There's a new sheriff in town. There is a new sheriff in town, obviously. And they're willing to deal even more. It's also a stark contrast to Disney, which has leaned into controlling all of its content. Yeah. Good old Bob Chapek. We'll see how that works out. The other thing that investors want to look at is investors want to look at their finances at Warner Bros. Discovery. They'll also compare with Disney. And for Warner Bros. Discovery to show, hey, listen, look how many billions we take in just on licensing our intellectual property. What does that say about the value of their library and all their content? It's extremely complimentary. So they're not in a position where they have to kind of sell and constantly resell and fund and finance all their own productions. It makes them much more viable financially. At the Code Conference on September 8th, former CEO Bob Iger recalled selling Disney's movies to Netflix so they could learn about streaming distribution. Quote, "It was very interesting to see as Netflix grew and consumption of our movies on their platform grew, what might be possible," he said. That's also Bob Iger's way of saying, don't blame me, we didn't start sooner. Yeah, if not for Disney, there would have been a much slower growth to Netflix in the first place. Bob Iger really waited too long. As they started to use their increased distribution and revenue to make original content to compete with our original content, it became pretty clear that we'd been selling nuclear weapons technology to a developing country, metaphorically, and that they were now using it against us. Now Warner Brothers Discovery is pursuing a different path, with the rest of Hollywood all but certain to watch both strategies closely. The strategies are very unique. This is the great thing about it. The strategies are very unique to what they have at Warner Brothers Discovery. Netflix can't do the same thing that Warner Brothers Discovery can do. Maybe they could make a Stranger Things film and then do some theatrical distribution. Netflix should have been doing that years ago. They're finally going to start some advertising. But no, I'm completely convinced with seeing things like Constantine happening where they're like, no, we're not going to fund the show. But we will bring back Keanu Reeves to make a badass Constantine 2. And it's a definite thing. They're definitely doing it. So cancel the woke stuff because it's not actually making money. And bring back sequels of things that are actually successful. License out intellectual property that's only going to promote our intellectual property and our other brands. I mean, the Batman animated show is only going to help any other DC project, especially Batman-related DC projects. And they're all about business. They're all about money. That's why it's going to work. And this is another element. Looking at ISOM number 1 at 3.5 million, definitely check out this campaign. It's funny. Ethan Van Sciver, I was on a live stream with him once. He also has massive success. This doesn't even include the $200,000 plus that Ethan raised on Cyberfrog 2 Wreck Planet. And Ethan had said something about Todd McFarlane, being aware of what he was doing. There's anyone who's a serious businessman, and Todd McFarlane is serious as a heart attack. You don't get much more serious than Todd McFarlane. He's well aware of what's going on with crowdfunding. He crowdfunded his Spawn figures, did a huge amount of money recently. So yeah, Todd McFarlane's aware. David Zaslav is aware of the market for crowdfunding, or if he isn't, he will be soon. Because he's going to, you make a very simple inquiry of your management team, whoever is responsible for reporting to whomever, and say, hey, what actually is working in this market versus what's not working? What's developing? Any business plan always talks about what's going on in a local market, including discussions about manga and other things like that. It gets reported up the chain. It's not because comic books are so important. They're important enough. They're not all getting licensed out. It's just not going to happen. They're going to continue to publish. My big prediction is there's going to wind up being, it may not be this year, next year when they get some management together and get an idea of what a strategy is going to be. My prediction is they're going to be doing more graphic novels than they're doing single issues. I also would predict they're going to get into live streaming eventually. Live streams is what drives the success of crowdfunding. It is. If you don't have live streams, you don't have nearly the success. You've got Brian Pulido, who's really successful with Lady Death. I just saw a video he did in 2021 where he's talking about how he did something like $45 million in crowdfunding in 7 years. Now, he's exceptional. He's an exceptional case. But what the Rippaverse has been able to do, Eric July, because of the strength of his live streaming and his personal following, Ethan Van Sciver does with Comicsgate. I also had success with Comicsgate with College of the Dead and the Mermaids, and I have a new project coming up soon I'll be talking about. But China's been doing live streaming already. We just don't, we don't see what's going on in their market. We don't always watch outside of what we already know. But there's live streaming that they already been doing for the cooking channel at Discovery, part of, obviously, Warner Brothers Discovery, innovated by someone on Zaslav's team, where they actually sell merchandise on the cooking channel. So it's not like they're unaware of these developments or they don't look to how is it happening, what's the hottest thing in technology to support generating revenue. They know, they already know, they're aware of this stuff. It doesn't mean that they have management to execute on it, but you're going to see some very interesting things coming. As I was saying yesterday, there is just one risk, a big risk, that Warner Brothers Discovery may wind up selling. This is from comicbook.com. itself or merging into NBC Universal, which may or may not include management from Zaslav and his crew. Or another company like Apple could come along and write a check. Those things are not impossible. And it won't happen before April 2024. In fact, negotiations are not supposed to even happen before April 2024 because the results of the spinoff from AT&T, there was a tax issue related to it. And because of the tax issue, there can't be another deal with Warner Brothers Discovery in an acquisition or a merger, at least for 2 years. And that issue is because of that tax issue. It was tax-free, so there'd have to be like billions of dollars paid in extra tax. It would not work out. However, if like Disney is captured, so eventually I think Disney will change. Who knows when? But Warner Brothers Discovery is all about the money these days. So realistically, we're going to see the end of any new films, TV, comics that are woke garbage that damage brands very soon. All right, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up when you like it. Really appreciate it. It's a huge, huge help when you do that. And I will see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.